Okay, I've made a few videos on this subject before, and I imagine I'll be making more videos leading up to the general election. It's something that is quite a prominent issue in this country, as it is, I imagine, in a lot of European countries right now. Um, so I'm not going to make this video very long, just want to say a few things about it. It turns out that this is a report from The Guardian. It says that I'll just read the first paragraph. All 18 to 21-year-olds who have failed to find a job or a place in training would no longer be able to claim job seekers allowance under a Tory government, but would instead be forced to undertake community work, David Cameron will say on Tuesday, as he continues his drive to put stricter curbs on welfare at the heart of his party's election appeal. Under the plans, those aged between 18 and 21 who have not had a job for 6 months will be barred from claiming benefit unless they agree to start an apprenticeship or complete community work. And I'll put a link to the article as I usually do. This has been the driving focus of this coalition government, is to constantly boast about how they're getting young people into work. This age group is younger than me. I'm 29, but I'm between jobs, and one thing I really want to avoid doing is signing up again. The reason being, it is so soul destroying. I made another video about this, and I don't want to go too much into personal issues, but Um, I have to say it sickens me to the core that this government, led by the Tories, and I don't think the Lib Dems have done anywhere near enough to dispel this, led by the Tories, has done everything in their power to scapegoat people who cannot defend themselves. Basically what this amounts to, when you think about it, is criminalising people for being unemployed. Um, Now, there might be people who watch this if it was 6 months, what's wrong with them, are they lazy or something. But the fact of the matter is, in many parts of the country, finding a job is a lot easier said than done. For one thing, you need qualifications to do a lot of jobs. It's not just a case that you can go in and get a job if there's a vacancy. There's competition as well. And I don't believe that there is enough jobs out there for the number of people who need paid work. It is bloody tough to be unemployed. And I really have very strong opinions about people who are very smug and who think, and this isn't applying to politicians at the moment, I'll get on to them in a second, but I'm talking about people who maybe have a stable job and they just have very they turn their nose up at unemployed people and they think, oh, they're lazy parasites or benefit scroungers. Um, you don't have to be a hardcore socialist or a left-winger to see that what is happening here is just plain wrong. That you have a government that is just trying to turn the public against itself, and this is actually a government that has used very divisive approaches. The exception I would make is on Scottish independence. On that issue, all the big parties came together, and that was an issue I supported. But on the issue of Britain itself, the actual fabric of society, this government has been incredibly divisive. And quite frankly, I had the choice. I could have went to China this year again, but I've chosen to stay in Britain because I want to see what happens in the general election, and I want to have my right to vote. But I'm not really looking forward to it, not because I'm apathetic, but because I can already see what the Tory billboards are going to be like. It's going to be maybe even worse than last time. In 2010, they stuck up posters all over the country saying things like, we'll force the unemployed to work, we'll crack down on benefits cheats, this sort of thing. And what they're actually doing is focusing on actually a proportionally small number of people who abuse the system and trying to send out this message to the public that all unemployed people are the same. Now, if they don't believe that, then why collective punishment? Why is it if you're unemployed for more than 6 months in Tory thinking you're a criminal? Some people might say that's long enough to get work. I disagree. If you're applying for lots of jobs, if you're going to interviews, if you're trying your level best, and it just isn't working, maybe you don't have the qualifications, maybe there's other people getting there, there's a range of factors. The point is, unless you've been in that position, unless you know how tough it is, then don't judge. I know there's responsibility involved. I agree, if you're out of work, you have responsibility. You need to try your best. And I'm not saying the government should do everything for you. The problem is this government is demonising unemployed people. And these are people who cannot defend themselves. What voice do they have, really? They can make YouTube videos, they can maybe write comments in the newspapers, but that's pretty much it. Maybe they could write letters to their MP. I'm talking about a voice in terms of speaking out against some of the things that are going on. Now, the general public, I believe, don't have all the information. For example, I don't know if the general public realise that unemployed people are forced to work for nothing. And I'm not talking about a small amount, I mean nothing. Under workfare, people have to work in a factory or a company literally for no wages. They will get job seekers allowance, which if you are a young person, I think it amounts to about £70 a week. But when you're being asked to do a 9 to 4 job, in other words more or less a full-time job, and you're not being paid the same as people who are working regularly, that's simply immoral. It's exploitation. And I feel utter contempt for the Tory party and what they are doing. And it makes my blood boil, to be quite honest, when I see the likes of Ian Duncan Smith claim that he's angry about this. That man has no... I sometimes wonder, does he have a soul? Now, I can understand people being annoyed with those who do abuse the system, and I'm not saying there aren't people who do that. There are. I've no problem with any party saying we need to stamp down on those people. But what this government is doing is actually extremely cowardly in the political sense. It's cowardly because it's very easy to do. It's very easy to be populist and turn the public against a particular group, in this case the unemployed. And there's few people that have been hammered as much by this government as the unemployed. Disabled people have also got a very rough ride. But it sickens me that they focus on the most vulnerable in society whilst they continue to prop up the rich and powerful. And you don't need to be a socialist to see that. It sickens me. But unfortunately this is very powerful. People will buy into it and they'll think, oh yeah, the Tories are going to be crack down on the lazy unemployed, and it really, really, really sickens me. So this video is basically just a rant. I try to do what I can. I sign petitions. I'm on all the Facebook groups against workfare, etc. I've written to MPs expressing I wrote to Ian Duncan Smith directly. I didn't get a reply from him. When Theresa May was in that capacity, before she was Home Secretary, I believe she was Shadow Work and Pensions Minister for a while, I wrote to her. She came back with lots of excuses. She said something along the lines, oh no, we don't want to do that, if the media has given this impression. But blaming the media is a bit of a cop-out from the Tories, because they have made it abundantly clear what their agenda is, and their agenda is to scapegoat the unemployed. So Theresa May or Ian Duncan Smith or anyone else can't make excuses and say, oh, that's not our intention. They know damn well what they're doing. And I think it's despicable. Utterly despicable. If you think unemployment is easy, I really, really, really would like to force people who think that into a job centre and try to experience it themselves. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who abuse the system and it's wrong, but actually the sort of money that is lost from benefit abuse is minimal compared to the sort of money that goes in overseas tax havens for multinational corporations. So the fact these Tories have no sense of... I think it is a joke, actually, Cameron's big society. It's a cruel joke, because this is a big society. We're not all in it together. That's a cruel joke. When Cameron and his cronies say that, what they're really talking about is, okay, maybe the middle class, but definitely the rich and powerful. This is a government that doesn't give a shit about the people who are struggling hardest in society, and it's a government that isn't only... It would be one thing if they didn't care, but this is a government that is actually scapegoating people in this position. And if life for the unemployed was so easy, why do you think it is that the suicide rate amongst unemployed people is a lot higher than the average? So it really enrages me when I see the Conservative Party trying to scapegoat people who cannot defend themselves. The Tories have a hatred for the unemployed, and they always have had. And that's not scaremongering, it's not shit-stirring. If you don't believe me, just look at their billboards. If that's what they're prepared to put publicly, what do you think they're really thinking behind closed doors? These people have utter contempt for the unemployed. And the fact that Cameron's going to force young people to do community service, that's what you do to people who are shoplifters, petty criminals. In other words, the Tories believe unemployment is the same as crime. I really, really hate this party. I might not disagree with every single policy they come out with, but I detest, with a passion, how they scapegoat and attack the most vulnerable in society. It utterly sickens me to the core, and it sickens me that so many people support them. And it just makes me think people who do that are either very ignorant or very cold-blooded, because if you think this is easy, I'll leave it there because I'm just going to be repeating myself.